Hello again, family. This is day 89 of our Reading Through the Bible Together in a Year series. Today we're in the book of 2 Samuel and we're covering chapters 12 through 14 through verse 20. We're not finishing chapter 14 today. It's a very long chapter. But anyways, where we're at is that David is king over Israel, right? No political rival, no equivalent, nothing like that. He is king. He's the only king. People have allegiance to him. Everything is good. He wants to build God a temple, but God's like, I'm fine with my tent. I'll build you a house, David. I'll build you a dynasty. Your descendants will build me a temple. Everything will be good. David's in good. He's making good decisions, leading good conquests, political victories, war victory, battle victories, and so everything seems to be good right now. But where we just left off in yesterday's reading was the story of David and Bathsheba and Uriah the Hittite. And so David took a woman who's not his own, slept with her. She became pregnant. He wanted to hide it, and so he brought her husband back from war, Uriah, and he tries to get Uriah to go spend time with his wife, but Uriah won't. Kind of throws it in David's face that Uriah won't enjoy himself back in Jerusalem as long as the rest of God's people, Joab, the Israelite army, the Ark of the Covenant, they're all in the open field in tents. They're exposed and vulnerable, so Uriah won't enjoy himself, which is what David is doing by not being out there at war. So Uriah pushes that in David's face, and David has him go out and die, essentially. And so we're going to see how that plays out today.
Yahweh sent Nathan to David. He came to him and said to him, There were two men in one city, the one rich and the other poor. The rich man had very many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing, except one little ewe lamb, which he had bought and raised. It grew up together with him and with his children. It ate of his own food, drank of his own cup, and lay in his bosom, and was like a daughter to him. A traveler came to the rich man, and he didn't want to take of his own flock and of his own herd to prepare for the wayfaring man who had come to him, but took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. David's anger burned hot against the man, and he said to Nathan, As Yahweh lives, the man who has done this deserves to die. He must restore the lamb fourfold, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity. Nathan said to David, You are the man. This is what Yahweh the God of Israel says. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you out of the hand of Shaul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your bosom, and gave you the house of Israel and of Yehudah. And if that would have been too little, I would have added to you many more such things. Why have you despised Yahweh's word, and do that which is evil in his sight? You have struck Uriah the Hittite with the sword, and have taken his wife to be your wife, and have slain him with the sword of the children of Ammon. Now therefore the sword will never depart from your house, because you have despised me, and have taken Uriah the Hittite's wife to be your wife. This is what Yahweh says, Behold, I will raise up evil against you out of your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes, and give them to your neighbor, and he will lie with your wives in the sight of the sun. For you did this secretly, but I will do this thing before all Israel and before the sun. David said to Nathan, I have sinned against Yahweh. Nathan said to David, Yahweh also has put away your sin. You will not die. However, because by this deed you have given great occasion to Yahweh's enemies to blaspheme, the child also who is born to you will surely die. Then Nathan departed to his house. Yahweh struck the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and he was very sick. David therefore begged God for the child, and David fasted, and went in and lay all night on the ground. The elders of his house arose beside him, to raise him up from the earth, but he would not, and he didn't eat bread with them. On the seventh day the child died. David's servants were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spoke to him, and he didn't listen to our voice. How will he then harm himself if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants were whispering together, David perceived that the child was dead. And David said to his servants, Is the child dead? They said, He is dead. Then David arose from the earth, and washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothing. And he came into Yahweh's house and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he requested, they set bread before him, and he ate. Then his servants said to him, What is this that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child was dead, you rose up and ate bread. He said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who knows whether Yahweh will not be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I will go to him, but he will not return to me." David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in to her and lay with her. She bore a son, and he called his name Shlomo. Yahweh loved him, and he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he named him Yedidiah for Yahweh's sake. Now Joab fought against Ravah of the children of Ammon, and took the royal city. Joab sent messengers to David, and said, "I have fought against Ravah. Yes, I have taken the city of waters. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together, and encamp against the city, and take it, lest I take the city, and it be called by my name." David gathered all the people together, and went to Ravah, and fought against it, and took it. He took the crown of their king from off his head, and its weight was a talent of gold, and in it were precious stones, and it was set on David's head. He brought a great quantity of plunder out of the city. He brought out the people who were in it, and put them to work under saws, under iron picks, under axes of iron, and made them go to the brick kiln. And he did so to all the cities of the children of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. After this, Avshalom, the son of David, had a beautiful sister whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. Amnon was so troubled that he became sick because of his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and it seemed hard to Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Yonadav, the son of Shimei, David's brother, and Yonadav was a very subtle man. He said to him, "Why, son of the king, are you so sad from day to day? Won't you tell me?" Amnon said to him, "I love Tamar, my brother Avshalom's sister." Yonadav said to him, "Lay down on your bed and pretend to be sick. When your father comes to see you, tell him, 'Please let my sister Tamar come and give me bread to eat, and prepare the food in my sight, that I may see it and eat it from her hand.'" So Amnon lay down and faked being sick. When the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, "Please let my sister Tamar come and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat from her hand." Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, "Go now to your brother Amnon's house, and prepare food for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying down. She took dough, kneaded it, made cakes in his sight, and baked the cakes. She took the pan and poured them out before him, but he refused to eat. Amnon said, "Have all men leave me." Then every man went out from him. Amnon said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the room, that I may eat it from your hand." Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the room to Amnon her brother. When she had brought them near to him to eat, he took hold of her, and said to her, "Come, lie with me, my sister." She answered him, "No, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Don't you do this folly. As for me, where would I carry my shame? And as for you, you will be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you." However, he would not listen to her voice, but being stronger than she, he forced her and lay with her. Then Amnon hated her with exceedingly great hatred, for the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which he had loved her. Amnon said to her, "Arise, be gone." She said to him, "Not so, because this great wrong in sending me away is worse than any other that you did to me." But he would not listen to her. Then he called his servant who ministered to him and said, "Now put this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her." She had a garment of various colors on her, for the king's daughters who were virgins dressed in such robes. Then his servant brought her out, and bolted the door after her. Tamar put ashes on her head, and tore her garment of various colors that was on her. And she laid her hand on her head, and went her way, crying aloud as she went. Avshalom her brother said to her, "Has Amnon your brother been with you? But now hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take this thing to heart." So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Avshalom's house. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. Avshalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad, for Avshalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. After 2 full years, Avshalom had sheep shearers in Baal Hatzor, which is beside Ephraim, and Avshalom invited all the king's sons. Avshalom came to the king and said, "See now, your servant has sheep shearers. Please let the king and his servants go with your servant." The king said to Avshalom, "No, my son, let's not all go, lest we be burdensome to you." He pressed him, however he would not go, but blessed him. Then Avshalom said, "If not, please let my brother Amnon go with us." The king said to him, "Why should he go with you?" But Avshalom pressed him, and he let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Avshalom commanded his servants, saying, Mark now when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I tell you, strike Amnon and then kill him. Don't be afraid. Haven't I commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant. The servants of Avshalom did to Amnon as Avshalom commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man got up on his mule and fled. While they were on the way, the news came to David, saying, Avshalom has slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. Then the king arose and tore his garments and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes torn. Yonadav, the son of Shima'ah, David's brother, answered, Don't let my lord suppose that they have killed all the young men, the king's sons, for Amnon only is dead. For by the appointment of Avshalom this has been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore don't let my lord the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for only Amnon is dead. But Avshalom fled. The young man who kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, many people were coming by way of the hillside behind him. Yonadav said to the king, Behold, the king's sons are coming. It is as your servant said. As soon as he had finished speaking, behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voices and wept. The king also and all his servants wept bitterly. But Avshalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ammichur, king of Geshur. David mourned for his son every day. So Avshalom fled and went to Geshur, and was there 3 years. King David longed to go out to Avshalom, for he was comforted concerning Amnon, since he was dead. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was toward Avshalom. Joab sent to Tekoa, and brought a wise woman from there, and said to her, Please act like a mourner, and put on mourning clothing. Please, and don't anoint yourself with oil, but be as a woman who has mourned a long time for the dead. Go in to the king and speak like this to him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. When the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground, showed respect, and said, Help, O king. The king said to her, What ails you? She answered, Truly I am a widow, and my husband is dead. Your servant had 2 sons, and they both fought together in the field. And there was no one to part them, but the one struck the other and killed him. Behold, the whole family has risen against your servant, and they say, Deliver him who struck his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother whom he killed, and so destroy the heir also. Thus they would quench my coal which is left, and would leave to my husband neither name nor remainder on the surface of the earth. The king said to the woman, Go to your house, and I will give a command concerning you. The woman of Tekoa said to the king, My lord, O king, may the iniquity be on me and on my father's house, and may the king and his throne be guiltless. The king said, Whoever says anything to you, bring him to me, and he will not bother you any more. Then she said, Please let the king remember Yahweh your God, that the avenger of blood destroy not any more, lest they destroy my son. He said, As Yahweh lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the earth. Then the woman said, Please let your servant speak a word to my lord the king. He said, Say on. The woman said, Why then have you devised such a thing against the people of God? For in speaking this word the king is as one who is guilty, in that the king does not bring home again his banished one. For we must die, and are like water spilled on the ground, which can't be gathered up again. Neither does God take away life, but devises means, that he who is banished not be an outcast from him. Now therefore, seeing that I have come to speak this word to my lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid. Your servant said, I will now speak to the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his servant. For the king will hear to deliver his servant out of the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Then your servant said, Please let the word of my lord the king bring rest. For as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. May Yahweh your God be with you. Then the king answered the woman, Please don't hide anything from me that I ask you. The woman said, Let my lord the king now speak. The king said, Is the hand of Joab with you in all this? Then the woman answered, As your soul lives, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right hand or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab urged me, and he put all these words in my mouth. And he put all these words in the mouth of your servant. Your servant Joab has done this thing to change the face of the matter. My lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth.
So some pretty dark and pretty crazy stories surrounding David and his sons Absalom and Amnon, and Absalom's sister Tamar. I mean, there's a graphically terrible story. And then, Absalom getting his revenge on Amnon and all of that. It's just, there's some dark stuff happening. And like I was talking to my friend Jordan not too long ago, it's like you really have to read you can't just read any story in the Old Testament and the New Testament for that matter, but you just can't read anything and assume that it has some ethical teaching for you specifically in this moment, or that, it's directly that God wants us to have that story so that we know what that character did and that it was right. There's just some dark stuff that's going on in here that's not good. And I think we are supposed to see that it's broken. And these relationships with these people, when they do what they want and they don't abide by Yahweh and what Yahweh wants for their lives. But anyways, that story is pretty rough, and we're kind of left off where Absalom has fled, and David wants to go out to him but doesn't, and I don't exactly know why. But then Joab brings this woman into David to say, hey, almost telling David a parable about her two sons, and one kills the other, and the whole town wants the son who killed the other to come out and be responsible. It's kind of a complicated, confusing story, but kind of what I think it is that Joab is trying to convince David through this woman that David needs to call Absalom to come home. And that's an important thing. And so we're going to see how that plays out tomorrow. But one thing I want to turn back to the David and Bathsheba story, right? This where Nathan tells the parable to David from Yahweh. And Nathan tells it. It's about the rich man who has plenty and the poor man who has just the one lamb. And when the rich man has visitors in town, he takes the poor man's lamb and prepares it as a meal. And David is just furious with the guy from the story. He says he should be killed right now. And Nathan's like, you're the man, it's you did it, you're the bad guy. And David tears his clothes, and it's bad. And unfortunately, David's son with Bathsheba gets struck with sickness, and David fasts for 7 days and weeps and lays on the ground, and the child dies. And as soon as the child dies, he stops fasting and he eats and he clothes himself and he washes, and his servants are confused because while the child was sick, you did all of these things, but now that he's dead, you're not going to mourn, you're not going to be sad anymore. And David is like, I did that because there was a chance that God would relent, but when the child died, I knew that it was over. That's kind of the attitude, and that's kind of an interesting story. I don't know if we're supposed to take anything from that, or if we're supposed to emulate David in our own suffering, like preparing for things that will be bad. Do we fast, and do we concentrate? Do we focus, and do we pray? I mean, fasting has a lot to do with eliminating distraction and really focusing hard and wanting something from God. And if it doesn't go our way, do we mourn, or do we get depressed in situations that we can't control, or once things happens, do we just accept it as reality and continue to live our lives? I mean, it's hard to know whether or not the story is trying to tell us if we should be emulating the way David acted, or if just thinking about what David was acting, or if David was right, or if it was just David knew that these are the consequences of his actions, and therefore there was no changing that after it took place. So just interesting stuff. I mean, this is a dense part of the story that I don't read a lot, that I don't have a lot of experience with, and so I'm learning some things and meditating myself. So I'm hoping that you're learning some things, and you're meditating and hearing things you've never heard before, and maybe you can think about it and process it and maybe use it for the better. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day.